Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin, and tonight we are continuing our series of the top 120 episodes in no particular order from every season. And we're just talking about the episodes that we really love and the ones that stick with us. And who knows, by the end of this, it might be 327, not just 120, the way we are going. But anyhow, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Carole.
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I started watching Supernatural in season 3. I heard Dean had a year to live and I had to find out what was going on. I started writing fanfic in 2012, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the podcast So Get This, the Lore of Supernatural Fanfic, available on Spotify.
Very good. Sue?
Hi, I'm Sue Ashworth, and I watched from the beginning. I wrote my first fanfic for Supernatural in 2005, and I'm still doing it. And I don't suppose I will stop.
Okay. Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I started watching Supernatural at that very first episode and stuck with it until the bloody end.
Yes.
All right, it wasn't really all that bloody, but you know.
Yes. Yes. And I'm Gail Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, went down the rabbit hole, started reading the fanfic, binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months, and here I am, still an obsessed fan all these years later. So let's talk about more episodes that we love. And let's start with Carole.
Let's start with the pilot. We love the pilot. The pilot was really terrific. They established right away the mood of this and even the focus of this. The focus of this is the brothers. We see Sam and Dean as a small child and an infant, threatened by something mysterious that kills their mother. Fast forward to them being grown up, Sam in college, Dean doing, we're not quite sure what, and we don't know what happened to John yet, but they have their the first case that we see where Dean implores Sam to join him to look for their father, and Sam is a little torn, but he agrees to do it, but he has to be back by Monday because he has an important interview for law school. Well, needless to say, Sam's plan does not work out. His life changes in the blink of an eye. But before that happens, we see them do a case, and it's dark and it's spooky, but there's banter and humor. And all of those things are immediately hallmarks of the show. The humor, the banter, the darkness, the gritty, like where Dean ends up covered in mud. The spooky woman in white who is pretty spooky. And then at the end, we see her even spookier ghost children. And it was scary. Like, what is going on here? So just a real cocktail of delicious elements that definitely left you wanting to know what the heck is going to happen next. What's up for these boys? Why was Jessica killed just like their mother? Where is their father? And we had all of these questions. And fortunately for us, Dean and Sam said they had work to do, and we got to jump in the Impala and go off with them as they started off their 15-season cruise through time. So the pilot, just terrific. You know, for pilots are often a little kludgy or awkward, or they have clumsy moments, or the chemistry hasn't quite worked out yet. Man, none of that happens in the Supernatural pilot. Sam and Dean are on point. we get their chemistry and their bond immediately. I mean, it just jumps off the screen. The mystery stuff is great. The spooky stuff is great. I mean, it just really leaves us wanting more, like right away. So I totally feel that the pilot is definitely in that 120 episode must-see episodes of Supernatural.
Okay, Sue.
I'm going to go first with episode 415, which is Death Takes a Holiday. I love this episode for so many reasons. For a start, it has some of my favorite characters in it. It has Alistair, the demon who has really gotten under Dean's skin.
Literally.
Oh, definitely. It has Pamela Barnes, who I love with a passion. She is a feisty psychic. It also has the Reaper, Tessa, and it's an excellent show. So it starts with two men walking out of a bar, and a mugger turns up and wants the wallet. The mugger shoots one of them, but he doesn't die. And then it seems that nobody's dying in this city. And to cut to the chase, Alistair is trying to break one of the seals, which are required in order to resurrect Lucifer. And they ask Pamela Barnes to come help them find out what's going on. Now, Pamela, being a mystic and extremely competent in that area, sends them into the psychic world in order to explore what's happening, because people just aren't dying. And then we meet a kid called Carole, who is very engaging. Carole is dead, and he died before all this happened. But Carole is, in his own very cheeky way, teaching Sam and Dean how to have an effect on the material world whilst being ghosts. It's a very exciting show. Alistair is killing Reapers because that is how the seal will be broken. He has Tessa. He's about to kill Tessa. And everything comes to a head. Of course, the Winchesters win, because they do, always. But unfortunately, a demon actually stabs Pamela. And once the kind of order for nobody to die is lifted, well, Pamela, of course, dies. I miss her, and I've missed her a lot, but wonderful show.
I'm on puppy duty tonight. This is one of them. The other is our golden retriever puppy. So if I suddenly look distracted or disappear, I'm puppy herding. Elektra?
I'm going to go with My Heart Will Go On, despite the fact that I have never seen the movie Titanic. There are a whole lot of things to love about this episode. We get to see all the things that might have been. We get to see the boys in their awesome muscle car Mustang driving around, because, well, maybe they would have been in a Mustang if things had just been a little bit different. We get to see a happy Bobby married to Ellen. We get to see a happy Joe. You know, it's so cool. I guess we don't see Joe, we just hear about Joe because she's off hunting somewhere. And running all through this, there are mysterious deaths going on, and at all of the death scenes there are gold threads, and eventually they are tied together to one of the fates, and we realize that messing with the fates is just a really, really bad idea, you know. And as they figure out what happened, and it ties all back to the Titanic and the fact that in this version of reality, the Titanic did not in fact crash into an iceberg and sink. And it's all Balthazar's doing for reasons. Sam is, well, you know, you totally butterfly affected history. And Dean is no Ashton Kutcher references. You know, because we can't refer to other things here. No, no, no.
Well, and the Celine Dion reference. Who's that? An indigent lounge singer in Quebec.
Yeah, well, yes, the whole idea of he did all of this because he did not want the movie Titanic to be made, because he hated the stupid song My Heart Will Go On, and this way it was never made, and Celine Dion never became a big singer. And they were asking Balthazar for help, and he said, "You have me confused with that other angel, the one in the dirty trench coat who's in love with you." Boy, yeah, they telegraphed that one, didn't they? But once they figured out that it's fate, it's not as easy to fix things when fate is not on your side. And she is quite the nasties, isn't she? Do not mess with the fates. They are mean. She threw quite a few things at them, including, you know, I don't remember what it was, if it was a piano or a safe or something. She almost dropped it on them. And she had a serious talk with Cass about how, you know, she was doing her job, and Cass said she wasn't needed anymore. And finally, she said, "Look, I'm going to kill Sam and Dean." And Cass and Balthazar agreed to sink the Titanic. And they go back and sink the Titanic. And at the end of the episode, Sam and Dean wake up back in their beloved Impala, listening to My Heart Will Go On the radio. And it's just one of those wonderful alternates of what could have been. And we could have seen a happy Bobby, and we could have seen the boys driving around in a Mustang until they realized that you really couldn't fit a body in the trunk.
And of course, Supernatural fandom, when the submersible sank, said that if they'd have just listened to Balthazar, this never would have happened.
Yes.
So,
And actually, it's funny because originally Kripke, I think, was going to have them drive a Mustang around.
Yeah,
But then
except
somebody
couldn't
did
put a body
point
in the
out,
trunk.
You can't put a body in the trunk. And he was like,
I
"Oh,
can just imagine them testing that out somewhere. Hey, you get in the trunk. No, you get in the trunk.
And they realized maybe they needed a car with a bigger trunk and a little more capabilities, but
and leg room."
With all that junk in the trunk, like
That's what Jared
Beans
is
and
for.
Carole is stuck there. Well, I'm gonna pick The Thing. And this gave us a look at the Rhode Island Men of Letters bunker and a tentacle monster. No word on whether it changed some of Dean's reading habits after this, after having a close call with the tentacle monster, which he, you know, previously found quite alluring, at least in fictional form. We saw Ketch and Gabriel, and Ketch dealing with Asmodeus and Gabriel as a prisoner. Ketch comes back, goes through the rift with Dean to try to save Mary and Jack. But in the middle there, we have this girl. They find a girl in this bunker from the 1920s. Clearly, anybody who is still alive locked in a bunker, has had some mumbo jumbo going on here. She's in a flapper dress. She is, it's right out of the Universal Monster movies. She's tied to this stone altar and she's screaming. And she, they don't know why she's still alive, why she's still young, but they, being the guys they are, they help her. And as we go on, we find out that the Men of Letters Rhode Island chapter was, playing kind of loose with the rules. And they had some naughty witchcraft going on. And there was this creature from beyond, this eldritch creature with lots of tentacles that they were coaxing through the rift. And long story short, Dean ends up being the new sacrifice to the god that needs a mate. And he's a little freaked out by this because he is now tied to the stone altar and the tentacles are coming down through the ceiling. And of course, Sam saves him just in time. But I loved getting to see another Men of Letters facility. I could have gone another 5 seasons with them just doing this old bunker and going around from bunker to bunker and unearthing all these, treasure troves and having adventures in each of the bunker. That would have kept me busy for years. So I loved that we got to see another bunker. I loved the whole flapper tentacle monster, seeing Dean in peril as the, damsel in distress. And it was just a good time. It was just a lot of fun. All right, round 2. Carole?
I also really just liked they kind of went into that really old school H.P. Lovecrafty kind of vibe going on with that, which was really fun. Who doesn't think H.P. Lovecraft is fun?
It's always fun until somebody gets eaten by the eldritch monster.
Right, or turns into a fish, as they often do. Gosh, there are just so many. I'm going to talk about Croatoan. And it doesn't matter what season it is, because it's a great episode. Croatoan, where a strange virus, they find out, is affecting this town. What they know first is that people in this town are kind of going nutso. So they're not quite becoming zombies, but they're certainly interested in attacking and possibly eating their friends and relations. So Sam and Dean are looking into this. They find out that there is this blood-borne contagion. They are able to work with the local doctor, who is totally flummoxed by the whole thing, but man, she rolls with it. She's one of those people that was so cool, because she's kind of like, wow, this is really crazy and I'm gonna really freak out later, but for the time being, let's just keep going. And you really have to always admire that practicality of, let's deal with what we got first and I'll freak out later. So but it gets really interesting when Sam is deliberately infected with the blood. So they're waiting for Sam to go, rogue. And they want to kill him. And Dean, of course, will have none of this, and ends up telling everyone to leave and fighting them off, and locks himself in the room with Sam. And Sam's even imploring him, Dean, leave. I don't want to, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want you to be affected by this. And Dean is like, I don't care. It's one of those situations again where he's like, I'm staying with my brother. I don't care what happens. If we go down, we go down together, which will be, as of course, this is early and this is now in season 2. But as we now know, that just goes throughout again, all 15 seasons. Lot of suspense. They're trying to figure out what is happening here. Why is the mysterious word Croatoan being written on telephone poles and things? And in the end, Sam is unaffected, and they don't really know why that is, but eventually it turns out everybody's okay, and it has burnt itself out. Everything seems, essentially, except for the people who have been killed, everything is back to normal. And we find out at the very end that in fact it was a test for Sam. Could Sam withstand this? Like, what Sam is going to be very special. And this is one of our first indications of this, that somebody has got plans for Sam. We don't know what they are. Sam and Dean don't know what they are. They don't even know that it's a test yet, but that's what this is. And so it really leaves us with a big mystery, a lot of questions. Again, we get to really see that unbreakable bond between them. Dean protecting his younger brother, and dealing with this really volatile situation. So very exciting episode, lots of tension and a good bit of angst.
Yeah.
So, and then
Dean
the big
gives-
mystery at the end. What is going
Dean
on?
gives the Impala away.
Yes, Dean actually says, take the Impala and go, which of course never happens again. That was it. That was the one time.
Well, that was very clearly an indication that he wasn't leaving there without Sam, no matter how it went.
Right. And he
If
was
Sam wasn't leaving,
prepared.
Dean wasn't leaving.
Right. And he was fully prepared, to die with Sam. If Sam was going down, he was going down with him.
Yeah. Sue?
Okay, 816, which is Remember the Titans. And it's not one that's talked about that much, but I really liked it because it tied in Greek mythology in a big way. So basically, you have a guy falling asleep at the wheel in the middle of the night and hitting a stranger who's walking by the roadside, killing him. In the morning, a state trooper finds his body frozen, and an eagle is gnawing at his insides. Ew. And then we see that the stranger is healed, he's gotten up, and he's gone away. So, of course, the state trooper is quite convinced that this is a zombie, which is how Sam and Dean become involved. And this same person, same John Doe, keeps popping in dead and coming back to life. Well, to cut a long story short, it turns out that his name, he calls himself Shane, but he's actually Prometheus. And Prometheus was way back in ancient history punished for giving mankind fire and condemned to keep dying and resurrecting and keep having an eagle eating his liver. Not something I'd like, but So then we have a strange woman who appears along with a little boy, and she claims that this is Shane's son, that they've met, gotten together, and Shane is the result. The little boy is the result. The little boy has the same problem as Shane. He also keeps dying, although they don't mention whether or not his liver gets eaten on a regular basis. And to cut a long story short, Sam and Dean summoned Zeus, who was the person or the god who originally condemned Prometheus to suffer. And the woman turns out to be Artemis, and she helps to rescue Shane, Prometheus, and eventually Shane allows Artemis to shoot him and pushes the arrow through into Zeus, killing him. Very tidy. Everything is resolved, and we have Just an interesting little one-off monster movie.
Very good. Elektra?
As was said earlier, who doesn't love H.P. Lovecraft?
Yeah.
So Let It Bleed, which opens up in Providence, Rhode Island of 1937, where H.P. Lovecraft is sitting at a typewriter typing the end as something blows in through his window dead. And it appears that Moshe Campbell actually visited H.P. Lovecraft, who was into, opening portals into other dimensions. He didn't just write about it. And Bobby's got a copy of the journal, and Castiel's got a copy of the journal. And one through of the episode is Bobby going to talk to people and discovering that, well, Castiel has been here first. And he goes to talk to people who were around back then, the few people who are still around, and trying to figure out what the heck happened back in 1937 when Lovecraft had a dinner party and everybody that went there ended up dead. And apparently they had, drinks, dinner, and opening a portal to another dimension. Or as it turns out, oh God, help me guys, where have we been trying to get into that season? Come on, Carole.
Which season?
Season 6. Not heaven or hell, but
Purgatory.
Oh, Purgatory.
purgatory. Yes, they opened a
Purgatory.
dimension into purgatory. They opened a gateway and something came through, and it's been here ever since. So that's one thing that they're figuring out the whole time. And in the other side of it, some demons are messing with Lisa and Ben, because Crowley wants Dean to back off what he's busy doing. So Dean is busy dealing with the demons that have kidnapped his girlfriend and her kid. And Bobby is bouncing around, questioning people in super Bobby mode and following the throughput. The people at the dinner party are toast, but there was a maid and she had a kid, and the kid is still around, and Bobby's talking to him, and everybody said the spell failed, but the kid said, something came through and took his mom, and his mom disappeared, and he showed Bobby a picture of his mother, and Bobby knows her. It's like, I remember her. And Bobby goes and visits his old friend, Dr. Vislok, and says, you never told me exactly where you came from and how old you were. And she was, well, a lady never talks about these things. And, he wants to know how to open the door into purgatory. And she said, that is better left closed. I maybe slipped through, but I'm not so bad. But there are some bad things in here and you don't want to mess with it. And meanwhile, you've got all this bad stuff going on, and Dean gets Lisa away from the demons, but she gets hurt, and Ben is forced to do things that Ben shouldn't be forced to do, like shoot demons with a shotgun full of salt. And they get Lisa to the hospital, and Dean makes probably one of the hardest decisions he's ever had to make, and it breaks your heart. He asks Cass to remove all memory of him from Lisa and Ben. And she ends up in the hospital thinking she was like hit by a drunk driver. And he goes in to check on her, and she has no memory of him whatsoever. And you walk out of that episode and it's like you've been hit by a truck. Just the revelations are coming thick and fast about, wait, we know who this woman is, but then, oh God, this was where Dean was going to get solace and love and comfort, and it's gone. So that episode just it takes you on an emotional roller coaster. It gives you a ton of information, and then it, sticks a knife in your heart.
Sounds pretty typical for Supernatural.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just another Tuesday,
Or Thursday, as it was.
as it was.
I'm going to go with the Scorpion and the Frog. I just love this because it had some Indiana Jones moments. It was a heist episode. Two of the characters even went by the pseudonym Smash and Grab. It was Sam and Dean trying to get a spell to open the rift to get Jack and their mom back. And they get a lead on a guy who is kind of squirrely, but he collects a lot of occult things. And there's also a demon who wants a chest that is on the squirrely guy's property. The squirrely guy is Luther Shrike. The demon is Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus wants this chest. He can't get to it because Luther has spelled his property. But Bartimaeus has offers Sam and Dean half of the spell to open the rift. The other half if they go on the property and get what he wants. And he's got a couple of people who can help them, aka Smash and Grab, who are big at breaking into things and stealing things. Big surprise from the names. Well, Sam goes to distract Luther Shrike, and Luther plays along with him, but he's not really fooled. And of course, clue the throw the moose across the room because Sam gets knocked out. But Dean has gone into the lower chambers to try to break into the secret place where Luther has his things. And there is this wonderful moment where there's this overly complicated lock where you have to stick your hand into the mouth of the carved lion or gorgon or whatever it is. And Dean Winchester, whom monsters fear, does not want to stick his hand in there. Just doesn't. And Smash kind of grabs his arm and shoves it in. And it turns out we see the inner mechanism. He gets like this little pinprick, but it draws blood. It doesn't lose him a finger or even a fingernail. It just prick. But then all the arcane mechanism works and the door opens up. By this time, Sam has come around, and they have also captured Luther Shrike. And there's this corridor, and down the corridor is the stuff that they want. And Dean's all for running ahead, and Sam goes, no, it's never that easy. And so they duct tape Luther Shrike to a wheeled office chair and roll him down the corridor, just like in the Indiana Jones movie where he's dodging all the traps. And so all these things hit Luther, who is tied to the chair. And at the end of the corridor, he has set off all the traps. He's not looking so good. And he has a lot of like darts sticking out of him. But he has now cleared the way, and they can go in and they get the box, and it turns out to be Bartimaeus's bones. And he pretty much played them on the spell. And Luther escapes and gets killed. And it just ends up being a real cluster at the end, and nobody really gets what they want. But Grab gets killed, Smash survives. They kind of talk her out of a life of crime and drop her off at the bus stop, and try to make do with what they can of the spell. But it's one of the few times they didn't really win. It was kind of a draw. They got part of what they wanted. They didn't end up facing a huge big bad like crap, this was worse than when we started, but it's a draw. And I like that because I think there would have been a lot of times in their life where it kind of ended up that way. It wasn't a huge win. Nobody died, but it wasn't a huge win. And maybe, it was a little more expensive to get the win or the draw than they expected. But I think that those were some of the moments we didn't normally get to see. And I think there would have been a lot of them in Winchester Land. So that's my pick. Back to you, Carol.
And just that image of him pushing that chair through the guy, that was hysterical. So I'm going to go lighthearted because we've been kind of dark and heavy and stuff. I'm going to go with Party on Garth, which is just, I mean, there's still a monster and it's still killing people. And, there's still an unhappy story in there, but it's a story prompted from a case that involves a special kind of Japanese demon. It's a spirit demon, not a spirit demon, but a spirits demon. And it is tied to a brewery. And you can only see it when you're drunk. So a couple of people are killed. They don't know why, but then a couple of people who are inebriated do see it. So Sam and Dean find out enough to realize that this is what's happening. And so they have to get drunk. Now, this is not the first time we've met Garth, but they don't know him all that well. And Garth is kind of goofy. He's sweet, he's gawky, he's, he loves Marmaduke. I mean, he's just a really kind of happy-go-lucky guy. He drinks one beer and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm like polluted. And they're like, what? And he's like, dudes, I drank like the whole beer. Of course, Sam and Dean.
Isn't this the episode where they discover he's the new Bobby?
No,
No?
no, not yet. Oh, no, I think that's the one with the penny. With
Yeah.
the first penny. So this one, and in fact, Bobby is a factor in this story though, because he's a ghost and he's
Right.
tied to his flask, which Dean has taken as a memento, and uses it regularly. But yet we have a great scene where Sam and Dean are just like drinking everything they can and getting trashed. But then they're trying to like fight, but they're drunk. And they're not just like a little drunk, which I'm sure they're kind of used to, but they're like really drunk. But Bobby steps in, gives them a hand. They find out why the demon is doing what it's doing, which is a sad tale of family, behaving badly towards family. And they're able to resolve it and everything. But boy, just the scenes of them like getting plowed and Garth like going wild on his one beer and stuff. It was just really a nice kind of comic, a little more lighthearted note in some of the darker stories.
Okay, Sue.
I'm going with What's Up, Tiger Mom. And excuse me. So this focuses very much on Linda Tran, Kevin's mom. Kevin has become a prophet, and he is really the only person who can interpret the tablets that have been discovered, including the demon tablet that everybody is looking for. Crowley knows this, and he's got Linda, the mom, under supervision because he really wants both Kevin and the tablet, even though at this point he's not quite sure what the tablet will do. So Sam and Dean have Kevin with them. Kevin is insistent that he should go and see his mom to make sure she's okay. And so they do finally go there, spot a bunch of demons, rescue Linda, and move her and Kevin on, presumably somewhere safe, except that nowhere's really safe for them. So Sam and Dean make sure that Kevin and Linda are tattooed with the anti-demon possession tattoo. And then Kevin hides the demon tablet in a locker in the bus station. Later, they find out that it's disappeared and they're trying to find out where it is. There's a guy called Clem who they feel might well have stolen it, and Dean is suspecting that this guy knows where the tablet is. He's going to cut Clem's throat. So Clem finally says that the tablet was sold to a pawn shop. Meanwhile, as they are at the pawn shop trying to liberate the tablet, they are invited to an auction. This strange, well-dressed guy comes along, introduces himself as Beau, and invites first Kevin into an auction that he's holding on behalf of his boss. Of course, Linda's not going anywhere without Kevin, and the Winchesters are not going anywhere without either of them, so all of them go to this auction. They get to the auction, and the auction is being run by Plutus, who is the god of greed, apparently, although I had not known him before. They have to turn in their weapons, but they do see the tablet on display as one of the artifacts being sold. An interesting little side plot at this point. There is a chap there who is bidding on Thor's hammer. And that hammer appears in another episode later on. But he bids on it for 5/8 of a virgin, amongst other things. And yes, exactly.
Folks, I have to step out for just a minute. So Sue, when you're done, Elektra, please take over and keep talking until I come back. I'll be back as quickly as I can.
So there's a bidding war that happens between Crowley and Linda Tran. The tablet is up for sale, and when Plutus doesn't get the kinds of offers he wants, he throws Kevin in with the tablet. Of course, Linda's not going to let anybody get away with that, and she bids her soul to win the tablet and Kevin. Crowley, of course, says, I bid 100 souls and my own, at which point he's informed by Plutus that he doesn't actually have a soul. And then they all basically, having found the tablet and having found Kevin, Crowley is really annoyed, but is still watching the trans, and we know that something more is going to happen. A young angel who is masquerading as a fast food salesperson called Alfie Samandriel offers to support them and put Kevin under protection. She scoffs at it. She says that angels couldn't protect Kevin before. She's going to stick with the Winchesters. And at the end, Crowley possesses Linda, having had the tattoo burned off her. And they have to fight. Dean is going to kill Linda to kill Crowley. Kevin takes exception to that. So instead of the Winchesters now being supportive and looking after Kevin, they are persona non grata, and that's how it ends.
We also
Okay.
get that wonderful scene where Sam picks up Thor's hammer
Yes.
and swings it in a really quintessential Banff Sam moment. And it's glorious to see.
And kills the guy who purchased it with his 5/8
Yep.
of a virgin.
Yep.
I guess Elektra.
All
Okay.
right. I'm going to go with Appointment in Samara,
Oh, yeah.
where Dean has decided he's fed up with Sam not having a soul and goes to see his buddy, Dr. Robert, who once helped out his dad, and says, okay, I want you to put me under, kill me for a minute or two and then bring me back. And he gets a hold of Tessa and says, I need to talk to Death. And he negotiates with Death. He says, I want you to go in and I want you to get Sam's soul, and I want you to get Adam out, because Sam's soul is stuck in the cage. And while you're at it, could you slice the hell part off? Because, Sam's soul has been nothing but the plaything for Michael and for Lucifer for quite a while. And I hear it might be beaten up a bit. And Death says, I can't do that, but I can put up a wall in Sam's mind so that it won't bother him. He just can't scratch at the wall. This is the best I can do. And Dean says, okay, but Death says, I will do this, but here, I need you to wear my ring for 24 hours, and you need to reap all of the souls. And Dean's like, all right. And Tessa starts him out and takes him by, and he reaps a guy that's, just like committed a robbery. And he's like, I'm good with this. And then she takes him to a 10-year-old who's lying in a hospital bed dying of cancer. And he's like, I'm not so good with this. And he can't do it. And Tessa's, there are consequences if you can't reap the souls. And you have to do this. The balance is thrown off. And he doesn't do it. And her nurse dies. And her nurse's husband is completely combobulated by the fact that his wife has just been killed in a car crash. And he goes off and gets drunk, and now he's about to die, and Dean stops him, and the only way to stop him is to take off the ring. And Dean goes and talks to Death and says, okay, yeah, I couldn't do it. And he goes back and he reaps the little girl's soul, and Death comes and brings Sam's soul to him, and Death says, it's not so much about you wearing the ring for 24 hours as I really wanted you to understand what a pain in the ass you guys are, where you throw the balance off constantly, and how much you do to us. And I needed you to understand, what you were asking us to do. And he brings the soul to Sam in a doctor's bag, and he shoves it back into Sam, and Sam screams. But, Sam with the soul is probably better off for everybody than soulless Sam, who was, I don't know, just a little off and a little creepy and not quite right. So now we have Sam with his soul back, but but it's behind a wall, so he can't get at the memories of hell.
Don't scratch. All right, everybody, we have blown through our time as usual. So real quick, let's go around, let everybody know where we can find you online, and starting with Carole.
I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook and Carole M. Stokes. You can find me on many, many, many continual panels and in the Supernatural TFWNC group. On Twitter, I am true_firesign10. On Instagram, it's firesign10. All of my fic is on AO3 under firesign10. And as Ellis Colton, my debut novella, Prescription for Love, will be out shortly this fall.
Sue?
Hi, I'm Candy Graham pretty much everywhere except Facebook, where I'm Sue Ashworth. Not sure how that slipped through. My fic is all on AO3, and I'm on most social media as Candy Graham. So you want me? Just
Okay.
put in
Like-
Candy Graham
Okay, Candy Graham with the
Candy
British
Graham.
spelling.
with double ME. Yes.
I'm Elektra Hammond. You can find me online at untilmidnight.com, and you can find me on Mastodon as Elektra@wandering.shop.
Okay. I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. Spell them right and you'll find me on all the social media. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group here on Facebook. I am a columnist for the Winchester Family Business blog, but most of the time I'm here on Continual. So thank you all so much for another wonderful round of this. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up soon. So we'll see you online.